Maria T. Grimaldo is a Master of Science Biomedical Sciences student with the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, UT Health Houston Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences in Houston, Texas, and is affiliated with the Immunology Program. Ms. Grimaldo began her academic studies at Pan American School in Panama City, Panama, and moved to League City, Texas, USA at a young age. Extracurricularly, Ms. Grimaldo partook in classic ballet training through the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Webster, Texas, and later through Fayho Ballet School in Dickinson, Texas. She was also a company dancer for the Bay Area Houston Ballet and Theater, where she performed in various classical ballets, including Coppelia, Edward Scissorhands, 2 seasons of Dracula, and 8 seasons of The Nutcracker, as well as various contemporary repertoires, including A Tribute to the Beatles. She was also an active member of the Clear Springs High School Band program in League City, Texas, where she played the alto, saxophone, and oboe. Ms. Grimaldo continued her academic studies at Texas A&M University, where she obtained a Bachelor of Science in Plant and Environmental Soil Science while completing her pre-medicine requirements. Ms. Grimaldo was president of 2020 of Aggies for Charity, watered through Texas A&M, as well as a service leader and co-coordinator in 2019 of Advocates for Christ Today and member in 2018 to 2021 of Pescadores through St. Mary's Catholic Center. Currently, Ms. Grimaldo is a graduate research assistant in the Department of Pulmonary Medicine at MD Anderson Cancer Center, where she is actively working on her master's thesis project that is focused in better understanding the role of mucin in modulating lung cancer progression using a KRAS mutant mouse model of lung adenocarcinoma. Got it. Following graduation, she intends to pursue medical training with the goal of becoming a physician scientist in the future. So please welcome her.
Hello. Let me get my notebook open. Okay. So hello, and thank you for the introduction. As stated, my name is Maria Grimaldo, and I'm a master's student and young professional at the MD Anderson UT Health Houston Graduate School. But most importantly, I am a daughter, a sister, a friend, a plant mom, and a fellow Houstonian. Let me lower this because I'm like trying to be tall, but I'm not that tall. Okay, so today I'll be giving a talk on the significance of embracing contradictions while framing and defining your career, choosing your major, AKA. And so my goal from this talk is that you will feel more confident in recognizing and welcoming the contradictions in your own lives, and will provide a few tips for you from lessons learned and from my experience along the way. So I know you just had food, so make sure to stay tuned for the end for those tips. For some background on myself, as stated, I moved from Panama City, Panama to Houston, Texas, League City, Texas, when I was 6 years old. So going from a country where the whole population is 4.5 million to a country where there is 331 million, according to yesterday's Google search. Now, you may be thinking, Maria, you moved when you were 6 years old. Do you really remember, what Panama was like? And the answer is yes, I do. I remember singing the national anthem every Monday at first thing in school and having empanadas for snack time. And I remember dictating a script at a record studio with my best friend so that we can have a voiceover while being an MC for the children's kindergartners play at school. I also remember my dad bringing home 50-cent ice cream from La Casa del Helado, or the House of Ice Cream, every single day when he came home from work, and pretending that I knew English to anyone and everyone that I met. However, when I moved to the United States, all of this changed. Instead, we did the Pledge of Allegiance every single day at fourth period, and we had animal crackers for lunch, for snack time. I didn't have any friends, and ice cream was no longer 50 cents. Furthermore, when it came to school, I didn't understand anything. The English that I thought I knew was actually gibberish, going like, blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't until I was taking my English as a second language classes where I was taken out of like my regular classes to attend these tutoring sessions, where I actually gained the skills to figure out what was going on around me and what people were saying. So that is where I learned, hey, can I hang out with you today? Can I be your friend? So that I can obtain friends at school. And that was in first grade when I moved. So that was my elementary school journey. Now, the only thing in this transition from Panama to the United States that remained constant, outside of my family, of course, was dance. I started dancing when I was 2 years old and became potty trained at an earlier age than expected so that I could join ballet classes. And it was something that I loved and enjoyed, and it was something that my parents really wanted to keep constant in my life. So with that, they enrolled me at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Webster, Texas, under the direction of Lynette Mason-Gregg. And that is where I grew to not only love school and learn English, but also love dance and have that creative freedom. It wasn't until 5th grade, however, and then later in 8th and 9th grade, where the idea of what my career, what my future 20-year plan was, so AKA when I was 25 years old, AKA me now, that I started having to have those crossroads of what I was going to pick or what I was going to choose. And I think some of you might be feeling this or have felt this, where people ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like a 10-year-old kid being like, I want to be a vet, or I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be an astronaut. So that was around that time, 5th grade, that I was having those thoughts. And it was in 5th grade where this crossroad of choosing a career in dance and becoming a professional dancer versus choosing a more college starting and traditional path, that these options presented themselves to me. But at the time, I was only in 5th grade, so it really wasn't as significant or detrimental to pick a choice. And the opportunity that I'm referring to that occurred in this moment was when I was accepted into the Prelude program within my school, within my ballet school. And for those of you who don't know, which is maybe a lot of you, the Preludes program was when they recruited young dancers to be a part of these productions with the ballet school's affiliated ballet company, Bay Area Houston Ballet and Theater. And so with that included more hours of dancing, more refined training, specifically with the artistic director of the ballet company, and as well as signing and notarizing a contract as a 5th grader. But again, this decision, this crossroad was not detrimental. So at the time, I knew that signing the contract wasn't going to be a big deal. I just had to commit for a year, and then a year after that, and a year after that. And I signed the contract and pursued both anyway. Now, it wasn't until 8th or 9th grade where the detrimental aspect really became prominent in this crossroad. And that was when I had 2 divisive, significant events in my life. The first was when I auditioned and was accepted into the ballet school's pre-professional program. This is a program where you are trained every single day with the artistic director from anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, including Saturdays and Sundays, with the intent of you, I know you, with the intent of you auditioning every spring for summer intensives with different ballet companies throughout the United States and in Europe, and eventually at 18 years old, joining these ballet companies. The second divisive and significant event during this 8th and 9th grade year was when I auditioned and was offered a full 1-year scholarship to the contemporary program at Joffrey Ballet School in New York City, with the intention of pursuing pre-professional training with their contemporary program and joining their contemporary company at the age of 18. So moving to New York, dedicating more time, and also ballet is expensive, so more financial commitment, I really needed to make a choice of what if I wanted to pursue a more traditional role or pursue dance. And the thoughts in my head were, okay, do I do dance, a more high-risk career path where you are dealing with 6-month contracts and instability on where you're going to be, and more of a freelancer type of career choice? Or do I choose a career where I can be at a company for anywhere from 1 to 25 years and retire at 65? So these were the thoughts in my head, the risk associated with it. Also, keep in mind the idea of having a job be dependent on your physique and health, aka not having injuries, and ballet specifically dealing with point shoes and having back problems when you're 25. So these were the things that I was considering in my decision making, and with the guidance of my parents and close friends and the instructors at my school, I decided to stay where I was and not pursue these two options and stick to the school in Houston, Texas. And so I think the main rationale or the main thought that I had at the time was that my options was very binary, was very one or the other, was very black and white. And it wasn't until I saw my younger peers being put through the same experiences that I had at that moment where I realized that there's a full spectrum of options despite the contradictions. They embraced those contradictions and they saw with an open mind all of the possibilities that you could have done with this when presented these two things. Now, these friends, some of them decided to go full-time into dance. They became Rockettes in New York City and are now with the Royal Opera House in Houston, not Houston, in England. And others decided, I really love dance, but I want to keep that high-risk aspect, have a backup plan. And so they ended up joining the American Ballet Theater in New York City while obtaining a bachelor's degree at NYU. I had friends who were like, I love dance, and I want it to be a part of my life, but I want to pursue another type of career. So they either became engineers, environmental engineers or civil engineers, obtained degrees in applied mathematics or business and finance, and ended up in different universities while attending those dance programs within their schools. And then you had persons like me who decided, I'm just going to use the coordination skills gained for those parties and weddings that we're always being invited to. So looking back, I don't regret the decision that I made of leaving dancing for the fun times and personal times, but I wish I had known that there was a full spectrum of options available when presenting a contradiction, and I wished I had embraced that opportunity like they had. And so fast forward to when I was in college, I went to A&M, Texas A&M, Gig 'em Aggies, I have my Aggie ring, and that I was now needing to choose a major. And this was when I started to grow a curiosity and interest in medicine and what it meant to be within the medical field. And so I had various experiences both in high school and in high school really that allowed me to learn more about what it meant to pursue a career within the medical field. Whether that be shadowing experiences or biomedical research experiences or just personal experiences like going to the doctor once a year for your physical exam. And so that allowed me to comprehend a little bit more. But during my first year at Texas A&M, when I was in their Blinn Team program, I was a general studies major in the eyes of Texas A&M and needed to choose my major by the end. My thought was, I want to be in medical school when I graduate. What if I pursue one of these typical pre-medicine majors? biochemistry, biomedical sciences, biology. And I thought that I was preparing for those, taking my biology chemistry courses, taking pre-cal, calculus, etc. But it wasn't until I had some influences in my life from those around me that I really started to feel, in a good and bad way, the anxiety that it felt of choosing a biochemistry degree when I hadn't even taken biochemistry yet. So I had no idea what biochemistry meant. How was I going to get a degree in that? And also the idea of what if I'm unsuccessful? What if I'm unsuccessful in entering medical school? And so one of these influences that I had actually came from a professor. And it was when I was receiving feedback from them on how I was doing in the course and what he thought of my performance. And he actually said, Maria, if you continue the way that you're going, you're going to be an unsuccessful applicant. And of course, hearing this from a superior, someone who's telling me, you can't do this, not if you keep up your habits, you need to increase your grades, you need to do better, that I realized, this anxiety, I'm like, what if that is a really reality that could happen to me, being an unsuccessful applicant? So that's when I started thinking, I really need to have a backup plan. What if I don't get into medical school? Or what if this is actually not what I want? But then I also had some positive experiences. And that was actually through my English class, where I had this professor in one of my composition classes, and the whole class was set up that you develop a research paper by the end of the class. The research paper could be on whatever topic that we wanted. It can be related to the major that we were thinking about, or it could not be. And the whole purpose was so we could really learn to read through the literature, read through publications, and be able to develop a persuasive argument. So at the time, a lot of my Pinterest pins were related to sustainable agriculture and knowing where your food came from and recipes. And one of the things that came up on my Pinterest feed, this was before TikTok, was actually vertical farming. And I had no idea what vertical farming was, so I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to choose vertical farming as my topic for my English paper. And it was in that semester, through my English course, in developing this research paper, that I actually became enamored by what I was learning. I loved understanding where our food came from and how sustainable agriculture and farming practices were becoming much more encouraged and much more prominent within the field. And I also loved learning how the use of plant-derived products were being used to reduce a patient's discomfort. For example, the use of aspirin from willow trees, or use of plant-based derived products to prevent nutritional deficiencies, such as the development of golden rice to help vitamin A deficiency in third world countries. And during this time, it was when I was finalizing which major I was going to pick by the end of my first year. And in conversation with my dad on a road trip to get some sausages in Snook, Texas, he asked me, Maria, what do you want to do? And I mentioned my thoughts on my decision on choosing biochemistry, how the doubt I was feeling, the insecurities that I was feeling, mostly being, I haven't taken biochemistry yet. How am I going to choose a biochemistry as my major? And he was like, well, Maria, at the end of the day, you want something you know you'll enjoy long-term, that can potentially be a backup plan, or can act as a side hustle, or can act as a passion project for you if you choose to continue medicine. At the end, medical schools don't have a requisite on the major that you need to have to enter their programs, as long as you take your pre-medicine requirements. So all you need, you can pick whichever major you want. And of course, I was at the Texas Agricultural and Mechanical University, so picking a degree in agriculture was very fitting. And that's when I decided to obtain a degree in plant and environmental soil science. So I was all about that dirt. While maintaining my pre-medicine track. And so seeing this, embracing this contradiction of agriculture and medicine, but really, and seeing the full spectrum of options in terms of how to balance the two, really allowed me to not only have peace of mind when making a decision as what you're going to pursue your bachelor's degree in, but it also allowed me the freedom to explore both as potential career options within my undergraduate training so that at the end I can make an informed decision on what type of job to be applying for or what type of graduate program to be applying for. And so here are some tips that I have for you, some major takeaways from my lessons learned, and things that I wish I had known that hopefully will resonate with you all. Maybe some of you are picking your majors now, so hopefully this resonates with you too. And the first is that measure how detrimental this crossroad is. If it's truly detrimental, if this choosing one option or the other is going to impact your 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan, or how you want to see yourself when you're 30, 40, 50 years old, make sure to keep that in mind. Make sure to see how heavy-weighted or how light-weighted this crossroad is for you. Then the second thing is keep an open mind. There are so many things that we have yet to learn in life. And so you are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, maybe a little older. So having an open mind is going to help you see those full spectrum of options for you. The third is see how other people have dealt with this same experience, how other people have chosen their major or how other people have dealt with a similar crossroad. Whether it be people who are older in the career track that you're pursuing, so persons that you're shadowing or advisors that you have within your favorite class, or etc., or persons who are 20 years down the line, CEOs of a business, etc., or blunt professors who are telling you, hey, you need to get your act together, or logical and optimistic people who see the bright side or have very rational thinking that can give you a straight answer. Having a diverse set of persons to give you feedback will help you in making this decision on which option to choose and how to merge them as the dancers did and as I did. And my last tip is remember the end goal. If your end goal down the line is to wake up in the morning and look at a microscope and look at some cells in the microscope and then start writing and talking about science and then finishing with dinner at home and having a family around you or eating ice cream every day, but that costs a little bit more than 50 cents. Remember the end goal because there are so many paths that one can take to get to that same end goal. And so be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and trust your gut when you start making your way towards that finish line. Anyways, that is what I have for you today. But now I'll take some questions. Okay. Right. Yeah. So when I wanted to see how what I wanted to do in my end goal, right? A lot of what I saw was that I liked teaching. I liked being able to mentor peers and mentor students class years below me. And so I always knew that I wanted to be in academia, even if I was in graduate school, even if I was in agronomy or in plant and environmental soil science. I didn't really see myself working an 8 to 5. I'm more of a workaholic, so I'll work an 8 to 8. And so, yeah, I that's kind of what made me think, okay, to continue pursuing graduate training and becoming more niche in terms of my knowledge base, or just staying where I am. And so I think when choosing if to go to graduate school or not to go to graduate school, it depends on what you want your end goal to be. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. Yes, I am applying in 60 days. So. Hello. Yeah, so as it said it's in the bio, but and it was mentioned during my introduction. So I'm currently doing a master's degree in biomedical sciences with an emphasis in immunology. And I work at MD Anderson Cancer Center. I didn't realize I was going to like studying cancer as much as I do. But I like the idea of cancer having, like studying cancer, there's a heavy need. I mean, many of us in this room will know at least one person who has had cancer who's in our lives. And so I wanted to see like what this was about. In terms of the disease, it's very complicated, and I like the complication. I like the idea of troubleshooting. And so the work that I do is currently through my advisor in his lab. His name is Dr. Mogharam, and he studies lung cancer, specifically lung adenocarcinoma or adenocarcinoma. And that is a subtype of lung cancer. And he studies one of this mutation, that is the KRAS mutation. So I think in your high school biology training, you have heard of P53, right? A driver of cell cycle and DNA replication. So we do KRAS mutation. It's another oncogenic driver mutation. And KRAS, in the context of lung cancer, has seen to be very difficult to treat. It has provided a lot of therapeutic resistance, and it has been difficult to target and difficult to treat persons with this cancer. It's becoming easier and easier, so that's good in that aspect. But we're studying what is going on with this mutation that makes it so hard for us to do chemotherapy or immune checkpoint blockade, or et cetera. So the project that I have within the KRAS mutant lung cancer world is the role of mucin proteins. So mucin, aka mucus, aka snot. So in terms of how these mucin proteins provide a shield, or in a way, if I'm speaking of this metaphorically, but provide a shield that allows for the tumor microenvironment to be more resistant to these therapies. So yeah, so my project is a niche within the mucin world in the context of KRAS mutant lung cancer. Yeah, that was a very long answer. You're welcome. Yeah.
Because I need to use this guy. So I want to talk Maria more, Miss Grimaldo here. I've known her for, I don't know, 5 years now or so, and because my little children are little, and they dance at the ballet school that Maria danced in, and every time I spoke with her as just a mother of children, and you know this, Miss Fraze, Professor Fraze. You know her.
Mm-hmm. I do.
You do know her. Professor Lisa Fraze's daughter also is a peer to you, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yes, and yeah. She is dancing.
She's a year older than me.
She's a year dancing, and she is dancing in Fort Worth. So the thing that always struck me from having these informal conversations were well, you heard her, right? She's amazingly articulate, explains herself extremely well, and is able to do that kind of eloquent talking, and while also coming from a background that was purely physical. And so I was really always very interested in like pinpointing how did that transition happen. And the last time I spoke with Maria was a couple years ago. And I think through that conversation, I concluded that through her rigorous physical training and through, as you said, you're a workaholic, your physical rigorous training made you into that kind of workaholic. What fascinated me about you was your cognitive flexibility, which a lot of students have heard me sometimes say that. Right? Yeah. So I wanted to get you to talk a little bit about, I know that you dance at weddings and at parties, but if you can help us, since we have time, a little bit, if you can help us understand like how you took some of those non-obvious aspects of your background.
Training.
Yeah. So essentially, I want you to speak to the idea of what are the benefits of cross-pollination, like
Yeah.
when we're, interdisciplinary, as this is a conversation that is all about that.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Can you hear me? Okay. So in dance, I mentioned like the rigorous hours, more training. That when you have that amount of time while also being a full-time student in K through 12 education, you learn a very important skill, and that is time management. Not only I didn't talk about this in the talk, but I was also part of the band program. I was part of the marching band program. So time management was a very important skill that I needed to have that translates into what I do now, that translates into my work ethic and my stamina now. So being able to be on my feet all day for 8 hours at a time, or rehearsals on Saturdays and Sundays, 8 to 10 hours long. Not having to have wood on my toes, but being able to stand on my day, being agile in that way, and having the mental strength to withstand a 10-hour workday translates into me now when I am pipetting back and forth in the lab, when I'm looking under a microscope and needing to be stimulated when looking at fluorochromes and looking at some immune cells. So the ability to time manage, the ability to have the mental strength that it is to last such a long workday, definitely translates into what I do now. Also part of my communication skills, part of the reason why I'm able to be eloquent but mention TikTok during my presentation is because of the performance aspect of dancing. So I'm able to talk to a room of 250 people, more or less, and have the confidence to do so because I'm used to dancing in front of 500 and so confidence is a big aspect that I'm very grateful for now. So there are soft skills, there are hard skills that you learn in the fine arts world that translate into every aspect of your life.
Do a lot of work, work those 8 shifts and whatnot. They don't have too much social time, like stuff like that. So I was going to ask, do you have any regrets in that aspect, making social or any other type of regrets?
Are you asking me if I know how to party? Because I know how to party. So I think you can tell by my talk I have social skills. The way that I see my time is I chunk it. I start the morning and I have my personal time when I'm having my coffee and my breakfast. I have work time that I am interacting with other people in a fun way. I have a fun working environment, so I'm being social there too. I'm friends with my colleagues. And then at night, I'll take a break, have dinner, go have dinner with friends and have social time, go have dinner with my family, pet my dog, and interact with humans as well and water my plants because I'm a plant mom. And then continue working or fall asleep. So every day is different. That's why I like the job that I have. But you will think about the 24 hours in a day. You have 24 hours in a day to get all of this done, to have social time, personal time, and to have work time. If you balance it in a way that makes you have peace of mind overall on your lifestyle, then that's the ultimate goal. And so whether if you're an introvert or an extrovert, figuring out how you're going to chunk your time, how you're going to take advantage of those 24 hours is what's going to help you balance it all. Yes. I saw you smiling the whole talk, so I was looking at you.
I love your presentation, and your good grades do help you, even though that's such a hard thing to hear when you're a freshman. Because my grades were not great when I was
You have 4 years to get your GPA where it needs to be. But that was, I think when you receive feedback like that, that's a little bit more blunt. That's maybe less of what you wanted to hear in the moment, a little bit. Then I think there are two ways to think about it. One is, what did that person mean to say? I'm sure the intention of my professor wasn't to say, you suck. It was to say, hey, you need to be better. You need to get your life together. You need to get your things straight, because you are entering and you're trying to apply to a very competitive program. So you need to be up to par with those other applicants so that you can enter that program. And seeing it in that way and reframing it in that way helps you receive that feedback. Even though he didn't word it in a very constructive manner, because I didn't go into detail about how it was said, but even though he didn't word it in a constructive manner, that doesn't mean that the intention wasn't there. The intention of him was to tell me, hey, take this as a moment to stop, think, and plan what's your next step going to be? What is your next strategy? Because what you're doing right now, that ain't going to work. So that can happen at multiple times. That can happen at freshman year. That can happen last year. That can happen yet tomorrow. So just taking feedback that wasn't said constructively and rephrasing it constructively is going to help you apply that. I don't think I answered your full question.
No, you absolutely did. I
Okay.
wanted to know, what were your feelings about that comment now in retrospect? You answered that.
Yeah. So in the moment, I was like, dang. It kind of fed that anxiety. It kind of fed that insecurity of am I really going to make it? I have 4 years ahead of me. I haven't even taken organic chemistry, which I hated, by the way. Sorry if you're an organic chemist. It's just not my thing. And so physics was also tough. So it was daunting, and having that feedback kind of fed that anxiety, but it didn't stop me from doing it. And I think that's the point. Don't stop doing it just because somebody said something. That's their opinion. Use it to fortify and grow and become a better person. So use it as a challenge if it's extra blunt, So yeah, in the moment it was tough to hear, but hey, it got me to where I am, and I'm grateful for that. And you need blunt people in your life. Not everybody's going to be rainbows and butterflies, so. Hello, yes.
I was going to ask, what is your favorite degree, out of all of yours, what was your most fun to learn? And then, well, not fun, but what do you enjoy the most? And why do you enjoy it? And then if you didn't enjoy it, how you said you have anxiety and stuff sometimes, what do you do to cope with that anxiety?
Ooh, okay. Coping with anxiety. What do I do to cope? Ice cream. I love it. I think ice cream should be currency. What do I actually do to cope with it? I work out. That's a physical way to deal with your stress. That's not going to hurt anybody.
Also.
Yeah, I over-prepare. I have backup plans A through G, and sometimes AA. So backup plans. That's how to cope and how to manage anxiety. The first part, what was your first part?
What is your favorite or most enjoyable degree path that you?
So I liked both. I still do. I'm a plant mom. I still do. I love talking about farming. I love talking about golden rice. I love talking about all of these things that I got from my bachelor's degree. I just didn't see myself working outside all the time. in Texas when it's 100 degrees. And it's not that I didn't like it, it's that I liked medicine more. I liked the challenge of studying cancer. I like the challenge of trying to see if my fluorochrome worked. I'm constantly troubleshooting at work and problem solving and tinkering, and I was tinkering with an equipment the other day. So I like that aspect, and it wasn't that I didn't like the other, it's that I like this more, and I can see myself doing it longer. Yeah. Yes. One white shirt.
Did everybody hear the question?
Yeah, so to repeat the question, she danced for 12 years, related to this story, was forced out because of injury, and was wondering if I had a similar circumstance, and how did I know to transition out of ballet and into more academic setting, and if injury played a role. I fortunately was not injured. My best friend was. She broke her ankle 3 times. Then my other really good friend, she kept dancing despite being injured, because that's what she wanted to do for the show, because the show must go on. So even in worsening her injury, don't recommend. If you have a medical injury, get treated. So seeing the fact that I saw their passion, which I appreciated, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't see myself. I didn't resonate with that. And I think that's what made my decision for me, is that I didn't want to have to switch careers when I'm 30 years old and like out of the blue and have to figure out how am I going to pay rent, you know? I didn't want that. Some people are willing to take that risk. I am backup plan A through AA, you know? So that didn't resonate with me, and I think that's the reason why I transitioned out. But I think life gives you circumstances, and it gives you lemons, and you got to make lemonade, and sometimes it's at moments where you didn't realize you needed lemonade right now. So it'll be to your benefit in the end, is what I say. So I have the friend who was injured 3 times. She is now a physical therapy assistant. So do with it what you will, you know? Like, to get a kinesiology degree, you can still be a part of the field. There are many ways to continue being a part of it, even if it wasn't the original idea that you had.
A couple more questions?
So you had mentioned kind of that when your professor like made you snap into it, or like that made you like want to get it together.
Yeah. So when I say snap into it, it didn't happen overnight.
Can you repeat a little bit of her question?
Yeah, so she was asking how the process was to snap into it, and like how is it that I did that transition of getting my life together? Is that kind of there?
From doing less well than she could have to doing really well academically.
Right.
Yeah. So the process of snapping into it was over a course of months to a year. So it wasn't overnight, and I don't think you should expect yourself to have a snap overnight. The only thing that snaps that quick is your leg when you break it. So I think it was a process of really pondering what is it that I needed to start, stop, and change. And I think going through that process of reflection, of seeing, okay, I need to stop this, I need to prioritize this, I need to change the way that I think about this or change the way that I do this, whether it be through like classes, how you're studying for a class, your strategy for acing that exam, or switching from the Cornell method of taking notes to using flashcards, things like that, to say partying less. And like we were talking about how I party, partying less and dedicating more time or more chunk of time to school, to studying, to that specific class. So I don't know if I answered your question, but it's figuring out and going through the process of thinking through what you need to start, stop, and change. Okay.
One final question?
Yes, black shirt.
My question is, from the opportunities that have arisen to you, which one of those have been
The Prelude experience in 5th grade, I auditioned for it. My friends were in Nutcracker. I wanted to be in the Nutcracker too. I auditioned for it and ended up getting the role. The Joffrey Ballet audition, that was a requirement from the school. Apparently I was really good at dancing this choreography that was about breaking out of prison, and I did like a leap that was like all the way to the side on both sides. Can't do that anymore. But they loved it, and they saw something in me and that I didn't see in myself, and they gave me the opportunity, so that was unexpected for sure. The pre-professional program within my school, that was expected. I didn't think I was going to get it. I ended up getting it, which I was surprised, and that's when I really had to think, what am I going to do about this? So some of them you plan for, you get. Some of them you plan for, you don't get. Some of them you plan for, you don't plan for, and you get anyway. So, yeah. I answered the question, I think? Yeah? Okay.
Well, let's thank Ms. Maria Grimaldo again. Here you go. We're paying her for her time, as we always do. And the point that I'm making here is we never have keynotes that are under 30. Yeah, and this year we did, because we thought it would be a good thing for you to hear from somebody who is, in one way or another, upwards or downwards, closer to your path. What are your thoughts? Did we do well here? Yeah.
Thank you. Medical school tuition.
Exactly. And I wanted to say a few more things. You asked the question of how do you recognize opportunities, or whether you make your opportunities, and every single one of you here has started or is on his way on making those opportunities, right? Like imagining them and making them. When the blunt professors say things like ask questions and you do it, this is the output, right? So please don't forget Maria Grimaldo. One thing she didn't say, and there's a lot that she didn't say, but one thing that continues to be impressive is that Maria is published several times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't expect those either.
And so when we say publish, we mean academic scholarly publications.
Yeah.
She's one of those names where my students, science publications have lots of names. Remember the et al.?
I'm one of the
et al. One of the et al.
I'm very towards the end. Yeah, like I'm way towards the end.
But this kind of thing is where you start, right? Anyhow, so I won't harp on about that, because we have awards to award to
Cool.
these lovely students. So let's give you another hand. Thank you very much. And Ms. Grimaldo is here to chat with you one-on-one after we do this final few bits. Here you go, because I don't want to take your stuff.